that mass and energy are both but different manifestations of the same thing.
Today's journey through Albert Einstein's life takes us from his challenging school days, marked by rebellion against rote learning, to his death in 1955 in Princeton, New Jersey, where he was a beloved figure. Beyond developing the theory of relativity, Einstein was a passionate advocate for civil rights and a vocal opponent of war. Through his quotes, we discover a man deeply philosophical and witty. Join us as we explore Einstein's most memorable words that continue to inspire generations. Early life and education. Albert Einstein's story begins in the quiet town of Ulm, in the Kingdom of Württemberg within the German Empire, where he was born on March 14, 1879. His parents, Hermann Einstein and Pauline Koch, were secular Ashkenazi Jews. Hermann was a salesman and engineer, and in 1880, the family relocated to the bustling borough of Ludwigsvorstadt-Isarvorstadt in Munich. There, Hermann and his brother Jakob founded Elektrotechnische Fabrik J. Einstein & C., a company manufacturing electrical equipment using direct current. From the age of 5, young Albert attended a Catholic elementary school in Munich. By the age of 8, he had advanced to the Luitpold Gymnasium, where he received both his primary and secondary education. In 1894, the family's fortunes changed when Hermann and Jakob's company failed to secure a lucrative contract to install electric lighting in Munich. Unable to transition from direct current to the more efficient alternating current, they were forced to sell their factory and move to Italy, first to Milan and then to Pavia. 15-year-old Albert remained in Munich to finish his schooling at the Luitpold Gymnasium. Hermann hoped his son would study electrical engineering, but Albert's curious and independent spirit clashed with the school's rigid teaching methods. He felt their rote memorization practices stifled creativity. By the end of that December, a letter from a doctor persuaded the school authorities to release him from its care, and Albert eagerly joined his family in Italy. It was during this time, as a teenager in Italy, that he penned his first essay, titled On the Investigation of the State of the Ether in a Magnetic Field. Einstein had a natural aptitude for physics and mathematics from an early age. At 12, he began independently exploring algebra, calculus, and Euclidean geometry, progressing so rapidly that he discovered an original proof of the Pythagorean theorem before turning 13. Family tutor Max Talmud recounted that after giving 12-year-old Albert a geometry textbook, he swiftly mastered it and moved on to higher mathematics. In no time, Einstein's mathematical genius soared beyond Talmud's own abilities. By 14, Einstein had already mastered integral and differential calculus. His fascination with algebra and geometry was so intense that he believed the world itself could be deciphered as a mathematical structure. When he turned 13, his interests expanded to include music and philosophy. This led to his introduction to Immanuel Kant's Critique of Pure Reason, which became his favorite work. Although Kant's writing was notoriously dense, the young Einstein grasped it with ease. In 1895, 16-year-old Einstein attempted the entrance exam for the Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich, Switzerland, later known as the Eidgenössische Technische Hochschule. While he excelled in physics and mathematics, he didn't meet the required standard in other subjects. On the advice of the school's principal, Einstein attended the Argovian Cantonal School in Aarau, Switzerland, to finish his secondary education. There, he lodged with the family of Jost Winteler and fell in love with their daughter, Marie. His sister, Maya, would later marry Marie's brother, Paul. In 1896, Einstein earned his diploma from the Argovian School, excelling in subjects like history, physics, and geometry. That same year, in January, Einstein renounced his citizenship of the German Kingdom of Württemberg to avoid military conscription. Later that September, he graduated with top marks in key subjects such as physics, algebra, and geometry. At 17, he enrolled in the 4-year mathematics and physics teaching program at the Federal Polytechnic School, pursuing his passion for science and mathematics. Meanwhile, Marie Winteler, a year older than him, took up a teaching position in Olsberg, Switzerland. Their paths were set on different trajectories, yet this formative period in Einstein's life laid the groundwork for the brilliant contributions he would eventually make to science. His relentless curiosity and disdain for conventional rote learning shaped him into the imaginative thinker who would forever change our understanding of the universe. The Miracle Year. After graduating from the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich in 1900, Einstein faced significant challenges. His unconventional habits of skipping classes to study advanced subjects on his own alienated some of his professors, notably Heinrich Weber, who then refused to write a recommendation for him. This lack of support left Einstein struggling to find academic positions, with every application he submitted being rejected. 1902 was a particularly tough year for Einstein. Amid these personal and professional crises, he resorted to tutoring, a job from which he was also fired. However, the tide began to turn later that year when the father of his lifelong friend, Marcel Grossmann, recommended him for a position as a clerk at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. This job, though seemingly modest, provided Einstein with financial stability and, crucially, the time to ponder the scientific mysteries that fascinated him. It was at the patent office that Einstein could engage deeply with his thoughts about the nature of light and motion. He had been obsessed since he was 16 with the idea, what would happen if you raced alongside a light beam? His studies at the Polytechnic School provided him with a crucial foundation through James Clerk Maxwell's equations, which describe the nature of light. Einstein realized that the speed of light remains constant regardless of the observer's movement, a revelation that contradicted Newton's laws, which assume an absolute frame of reference. This insight led to the formulation of the theory of special relativity, articulated in his 1905 paper on the electrodynamics of moving bodies. The theory introduced the revolutionary concept that the speed of light is a constant in any inertial frame and redefined concepts of space and time. 1905 is often celebrated as Einstein's miracle year, during which he published 4 groundbreaking papers. Besides special relativity, he explained the photoelectric effect using the quantum theory, suggesting that light could be described as discrete packets of energy, which later became known as photons. This work offered a new way to understand the behavior of light and led to significant advancements in quantum mechanics. Another paper provided the first empirical evidence supporting the existence of atoms through the analysis of Brownian motion. His exploration into the movement of particles suspended in a fluid allowed him to estimate their size and prove the atomic theory of matter. Lastly, Einstein addressed the relationship between energy and mass with the famous equation E equals mc squared, positing that mass could be converted into energy. This was not only a pivotal moment for physics, but also laid the conceptual foundation for nuclear energy. Emigration to the US. In 1933, a significant shift occurred in Albert Einstein's life due to the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazis in Germany. During a visiting professorship at the California Institute of Technology in Pasadena, Einstein became acutely aware that returning to Germany was no longer safe. This realization set the stage for his eventual move to the United States, marking a profound shift in his life and work. The early signs of trouble were clear. While Einstein was in America, the Gestapo raided his family's apartment in Berlin several times. By March 1933, the situation had deteriorated significantly. The German Reichstag passed the Enabling Act, transforming Hitler's government into a legal dictatorship, thereby making it impossible for Einstein to return to his Berlin home. He and his wife, Elsa, learned of these developments while traveling in Europe. They also discovered that their cottage had been raided, Einstein's sailboat confiscated, and his property turned into a Hitler youth camp. In response, Einstein took a drastic step at the German consulate in Antwerp, Belgium, by renouncing his German citizenship. During this tumultuous period, Einstein found himself without a permanent home and was deeply concerned about the fate of other scientists still in Germany. The new Nazi government had enacted laws barring Jews from holding any official positions, including academic posts at universities. This led to a mass exodus of Jewish scientists, who were forced to relinquish their university roles. In May 1933, Einstein himself became a target of the Nazi regime. His works were burned, and a bounty was placed on his head. Einstein's escape from Nazi persecution was aided by the Academic Assistance Council in Britain, which helped academics affected by the new regime. He briefly settled in De Haan, Belgium, and later moved to England following an invitation by British MP Commander Oliver Locker-Lampson. During his stay in England, Locker-Lampson arranged for Einstein to meet influential figures like Winston Churchill, Austen Chamberlain, and former Prime Minister Lloyd George to advocate for the rescue of Jewish scientists from Germany. Churchill responded promptly to Einstein's pleas, directing physicist Frederick Lindemann to assist in placing Jewish scientists in British universities. This effort significantly undermined Nazi Germany's technological capabilities, as noted by Churchill himself. In addition to his advocacy in Britain, Einstein reached out to international leaders, including Turkey's Prime Minister İsmet İnönü, leading to over 1,000 Jewish scientists finding refuge in Turkey. Despite efforts in the UK to grant him citizenship, both legislative attempts failed, prompting Einstein to accept an offer from the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. In October 1933, after speaking on academic freedom at the Royal Albert Hall in London, Einstein returned to the US to join the Institute, a sanctuary for many scientists fleeing Nazi oppression. In 1939, as World War II loomed, Einstein and fellow physicist Leo Szilard wrote to President Roosevelt, urging the US to develop its own atomic research, a move that would lead to the Manhattan Project. Einstein later expressed regret over this action, especially as it contradicted his pacifist principles. In 1940, Albert Einstein solidified his ties to the United States by becoming an American citizen, a significant milestone after his appointment at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. Embracing the U.S. cultural landscape, he praised the American meritocratic system, which he felt was a stark contrast to European norms. Einstein appreciated the freedom of expression and thought prevalent in America. His transition to American life also marked a deeper engagement in social issues, particularly the civil rights movement. Einstein joined the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People in Princeton, dedicating himself to the struggle against what he described as America's worst disease, racism. Einstein's commitment to civil rights was highlighted by his interactions with prominent African-American figures and activists. He developed a correspondence with Webb Du Bois, a leading civil rights activist, and was even prepared to testify on Du Bois' behalf during his 1951 trial, where he was accused of being a foreign agent. The case was dropped after Einstein offered to appear as a character witness. Further illustrating his engagement, in 1946, Einstein visited Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, the first university in the United States to grant college degrees to African Americans, whose alumni include notable figures such as Langston Hughes and Thurgood Marshall. During his visit, Einstein was awarded an honorary degree and delivered a powerful speech condemning racism in America. He declared his refusal to remain silent about racial injustice. Moreover, he supported the education of African American students, including covering college tuition for a deserving student. Personal life. In early 1902, while Mileva Maric was visiting her parents in Novi Sad, she gave birth to a daughter named Liesl. Sadly, Liesl's fate remains uncertain. She didn't accompany Maric when she returned to Switzerland, and a letter Einstein wrote in September 1903 hints that the girl was either adopted or died from scarlet fever in infancy. In January 1903, Einstein and Maric married. A year later, their son Hans Albert was born in Bern, Switzerland. In July 1910, their second son, Eduard, was born in Zurich. However, letters that Einstein wrote to his former lover, Marie Winteler, reveal that he was conflicted about his marriage. He described his love for Maric as misguided and lamented the missed life he envisioned had he married Winteler instead. By 1912, Einstein had become romantically involved with Elsa Lowenthal, his first cousin on his mother's side and second cousin on his father's. After Einstein and Maric moved to Berlin in April 1914, Maric discovered the affair and returned to Zurich, taking their two sons with her. Einstein and Maric were divorced on February 14, 1919, citing 5 years of separation. In a striking gesture of goodwill during their divorce settlement, Einstein agreed to give Maric any Nobel Prize winnings he might earn. True to his word, he handed her the money when he won the prize 2 years later in 1921 for his services to theoretical physics, and especially for his discovery of the law of the photoelectric effect. That same year, in 1919, Einstein married Elsa Lowenthal. Their marriage was marred by Einstein's continued infidelities. In 1923, he began an affair with a secretary named Betty Newman, who was the niece of his close friend Hans Mussum. Despite this, Lowenthal stayed loyal, and when Einstein emigrated to the United States in 1933, she accompanied him. In 1935, she was diagnosed with heart and kidney problems, and she died a year later in December 1936. Einstein's personal life continued to be marked by other relationships. In 2006, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem released a collection of his letters that revealed several more of Einstein's romantic interests. Among these were Margaret Labach, a married Austrian, Estella Katzenellenbogen, a wealthy florist business owner, Toni Mendel, a Jewish widow, and Ethel Michanowski, a Berlin socialite. Einstein received gifts from them while still married to Lowenthal. After Lowenthal's death, he briefly had a relationship with Margarita Konenkova, a woman some suspect was a Russian spy. Her husband, the Russian sculptor Sergei Konenkov, crafted a bronze bust of Einstein that still stands at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton. Sadly, the struggles didn't end there for Einstein. After experiencing an episode of acute mental illness in his 20s, Einstein's son Eduard was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Eduard spent the remainder of his life either in the care of his mother or in an asylum. After Marich passed away, Eduard was committed permanently to Burghölzli, the psychiatric university hospital in Zurich. Personal views. In 1918, when Einstein was among the signatories of the founding proclamation of the German Democratic Party, this was a liberal party that reflected his early political inclinations. However, as his thoughts evolved, Einstein's views took a socialist turn. In his essay, Why Socialism?, he argued in favor of socialism and expressed critical views on capitalism. Einstein's relationship with the Bolsheviks was complex. Initially, in 1925, he criticized their lack of a well-regulated system of government and described their rule as a regime of terror and a tragedy in human history. However, his views softened over time, and by 1929, he expressed admiration for Vladimir Lenin, acknowledging his commitment to social justice despite disagreeing with his methods. Einstein also ventured beyond the realm of theoretical physics to advocate for global governance. He saw a democratic global government as the only solution to eliminate significant threats to humanity, stating that he advocated world government because he was convinced that there was no other possible way of eliminating the most terrible danger in which man has ever found himself. His political engagement was significant enough to warrant the creation of a secret dossier by the FBI, which grew to 1,427 pages by the time of his death. A profound respect for individual leaders who championed peace and nonviolence also marked Einstein's views. He was deeply impressed by Mahatma Gandhi, whom he saw as a role model for the generations to come. Their connection was initiated by Wilfrid Israel in 1931, leading to a brief but meaningful correspondence where Einstein expressed his admiration for Gandhi's principles. Turning to Zionism, Einstein played a pivotal role in the establishment of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem in 1925, illustrating his commitment to education and cultural development. While he supported the Zionist movement and the return of Jewish people to Palestine, he favored a binational state where Jews and Arabs could coexist sovereignly. His nuanced view on nationalism reflected in his letters, where he stated a dislike for nationalism, including Jewish nationalism, but recognized it as a necessity imposed by a hostile world. In 1952, following the death of Israeli President Chaim Weizmann, Einstein was offered the ceremonial position of President of Israel. He was moved, but declined the offer, feeling unqualified for such a political role. Einstein's spiritual and philosophical beliefs were as unique as his contributions to physics. He admired the impersonal pantheistic God of Baruch Spinoza's philosophy, and rejected the idea of a personal God involved in the fates of humans. He considered himself an agnostic or a deeply religious non-believer. He firmly denied the existence of an afterlife, believing that one life was enough for him. Einstein's ethical views were closely tied to his philosophical stances. He was associated with humanist and ethical culture groups, emphasizing the importance of ethical behavior over religious doctrines. On the 75th anniversary of the New York Society for Ethical Culture, he praised ethical culture as essential for humanity's salvation. In his personal lifestyle, Einstein had sympathies towards vegetarianism, which he supported for both moral and aesthetic reasons. In the last part of his life, he adopted a vegetarian diet, linking it to a beneficial influence on human temperament and the betterment of mankind. Quotes. Albert Einstein's wisdom extends beyond the realms of science, offering profound insights into life, ethics, and the human condition. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion that stands at the cradle of true art and true science. Reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. Logic will get you from A to Z. Imagination will get you everywhere. Two things are infinite: the universe and human stupidity. And I'm not sure about the universe. Anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new. Try not to become a man of success. Rather, become a man of value. The world is a dangerous place to live, not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it. Peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. Creativity is intelligence having fun. The true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. A clever person solves a problem. A wise person avoids it. If you want your children to be intelligent, read them fairy tales. If you want them to be more intelligent, read them more fairy tales. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Gravitation is not responsible for people falling in love. Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. Science without religion is lame. religion without science is blind. If A is success in life, then A equals X plus Y plus Z. Work is X, Y is play, and Z is keeping your mouth shut. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence. You never fail until you stop trying. What is right is not always popular, and what is popular is not always right. Once you can accept the universe as matter expanding into nothing that is something, wearing stripes with plaid comes easy. I am enough of an artist to draw freely upon my imagination. Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited while imagination embraces the entire world. Blind belief in authority is the greatest enemy of truth. A question that sometimes drives me hazy. Am I or are the others crazy? Never memorize something that you can look up. Whoever is careless with the truth in small matters cannot be trusted with important matters. I must be willing to give up what I am in order to become what I will be. Everything must be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. Love is a better master than duty. The measure of intelligence is the ability to change. The pursuit of truth and beauty is a sphere of activity in which we are permitted to remain children all our lives. Once you can accept the universe as matter expanding into nothing that is something, wearing stripes with plaid comes easy. I speak to everyone in the same way, whether he is the garbage man or the president of the university. The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. Few are those who see with their own eyes and feel with their own hearts. I believe in intuitions and inspirations. I sometimes feel that I'm right. I do not know that I am. A person who never made a mistake never tried anything new. Science can flourish only in an atmosphere of free speech. I would teach peace rather than war. I would inculcate love rather than hate. One thing I have learned in a long life, that all our science, measured against reality, is primitive and childlike, and yet, it is the most precious thing we have. My passion for social justice has often brought me into conflict with people, as has my aversion to any obligation and dependence I did not regard as absolutely necessary. It would be possible to describe everything scientifically, but it would make no sense. It would be without meaning, as if you described a Beethoven symphony as a variation of wave pressure. If we knew what it was we were doing, it would not be called research, would it? I am enough of an artist to draw freely upon my imagination, which I think is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited. The only real valuable thing is intuition. When you are courting a nice girl, an hour seems like a second. When you sit on a red-hot cinder, a second seems like an hour. That's relativity. Any fool can know. The point is to understand. It is not that I'm so smart, but I stay with the questions much longer. I speak to everyone in the same way, whether he is the garbage man or the president of the university. I have no special talents. I am only passionately curious. If you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it yourself. The best way to cheer yourself up is to try to cheer somebody else up. Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile. Once we accept our limits, we go beyond them. The only source of knowledge is experience. Information is not knowledge. The only source of knowledge is experience. Death and legacy. On the 17th of April, 1955, Albert Einstein's life neared its close in a dramatic and touching episode. He experienced severe internal bleeding, the result of a ruptured abdominal aortic aneurysm. This medical condition was not new to him. It had first been addressed in 1948, when the aneurysm was surgically reinforced by Rudolf Nissen. At the time of his final crisis, Einstein was actively working on a speech intended for a television appearance to celebrate the 7th anniversary of the State of Israel, a speech he would never deliver. Facing the inevitable, Einstein made a choice that spoke volumes about his approach to life and death. He refused any surgical attempts to prolong his life, expressing his desire to depart on his own terms and criticizing the artificial prolongation of life. He felt he had contributed his share, and it was time to leave with elegance. Einstein passed away early the next morning at Princeton Hospital, at the age of 76. His intellectual pursuits had occupied him until almost his final moments. During the autopsy, without the consent of his family, pathologist Thomas Stoltz Harvey removed Einstein's brain, hoping that future neuroscience might uncover the secrets of his extraordinary intellectual capacities. Einstein's remains were cremated in Trenton, New Jersey, and his ashes scattered in a location that remains undisclosed, as per his wishes. In a memorial lecture at UNESCO headquarters in December 1965, J. Robert Oppenheimer captured Einstein's essence, noting his remarkable lack of sophistication and worldliness, paired with a purity that was both childlike and profoundly stubborn. Albert Einstein's impact on science stretches far beyond his own lifetime, proving that he was perhaps ahead of his time rather than a figure of the past. Einstein bequeathed his personal archives, library, and intellectual assets to the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, ensuring that his contributions to science and humanity would resonate well beyond his years. During Einstein's life, the complexities of the strong force eluded understanding. It wasn't until the 1970s and 80s that physicists unraveled its secrets through the quark model. Yet, Einstein's theories have continually paved the way for groundbreaking discoveries. His prediction of gravitational waves was confirmed with a Nobel Prize in 1993, awarded to the scientists who discovered them. In 1995, another Nobel Prize was bestowed for the discovery of Bose-Einstein condensates, a novel state of matter achievable at ultra-cold temperatures. Today, thousands of known black holes validate aspects of his theories, and modern space satellites continue to support his cosmological predictions. Meanwhile, many of today's top physicists are still pursuing Einstein's visionary quest for a theory of everything. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.